Hello, are you wanting to be part of the crochet community but you don't know where to freaking start because it's so confusing? Cool. Let me help you. Let me help you. Let me be your guide and say things in a non-confusing way so that you understand and you can do your shit by yourself and not ask anyone questions and bother anyone with these questions. Tip number 1, when you're starting a project and you look on the skein and it tells you you need a 5mm hook, get a bigger hook. Get a 6mm or a 7mm or maybe even an 8mm if you're having lots of trouble with tension. The reason you can't crochet easily is because your hook is too tight and your tension is too tight, which is perfectly normal for beginner crochet people. But in order to create looser stitches, you're gonna need a bigger hook. For example, if I'm using this size hook, which is 3.5mm on this very thin yarn, and so it's making stitches that are small in the size that I want. If I used a 5mm on this yarn, it's still possible to use a bigger hook on thread that needs a smaller hook. Well, when they tell you on the skein, look at those stitches, these last two. They're so much more manageable. It's easier to get your hook into it. Use larger sizes than you need to at first. Tip number 2, when you're putting your project away, this is what I like to do, but you don't have to do it. I wrap the yarn around my hook and then I'll like stick it through my project and kind of wrap the project around my hook so I don't lose my hook, I don't lose my project, and I don't lose any stitches, because it's very easy to just see, this is harder to get out, but it's very easy to just pull while your project is in your bag and lose like a whole row of your stitches, which is so frustrating. A lot of people like stitch markers. I think that's too confusing when you're first starting out and you have like a bunch of little tic tacs. You're supposed to remember where they are. How are you supposed to do that? So use the tools that you have, just wrap it around, stick it in, and then it'll be fine. Tip number 3 is something I see a lot with when I'm teaching my friends how to crochet, is they'll do something very easy like a square that you can turn into a beanie that you cinch up at top, but their rows start getting smaller and they're so confused as to why. Let me give you a tip. You usually aren't decreasing your rows, you're usually doing it fine. All you need to do is stretch the last few rows, because you usually, as you get into a rhythm, your tension becomes better, it becomes more smooth, and you'll probably create a tighter row as you go along. So it's not necessarily that you're skipping any stitches and making it tighter. You may just be crocheting better. So what I like to do is just stretch out those last rows, and they'll be as long as the first rows. And if you stretch them out and it still looks kind of diagonal, maybe you did skip a few rows, and you go ahead and frog those rows and continue. But I hope that helped. Let me know if you need more of like a tutorial, like with videos of my hands with what I'm saying. But I just see a lot of like confusion with crochet, and you kind of need to know how to do all of it to teach the beginning, which is really frustrating, and it can seem like kind of like an inaccessible hobby, but hopefully I clear some of your worries, because you can do it. It's basically like building Legos with yarn, so I believe in you. Bye!